pop down. It's just inefficient. You're going to be light and fast. And it's that light compression and extension that allows Geordie to go up and down the wave. So the squat is going to lock you up, whereas the lunge gives you a wider range of movement. If you've got a poo man stance, what that suggests is that not only does it look shitty, but you can't see potential. I'm going to poo man, and this is a result of a bad pop-up. You can't understand what I want to do. But if I change that into a sprinting posture, from here it looks like I want to jump, I want to compress, I want to throw a punch, I want to kick. So my potential for explosive movement, if I'm more in a front-on lunging position, is far greater. So the reason why something looks photogenic, for example, if I wanted to jump up here, which is really high, I would need to, and by looking at my intention that I'm setting, you could potentially guess that I wanted to go up. But if I did the same thing side on and in poo man, right, you can't understand my intention. That coupled with the wave that's standing up and looks great, and you're reading my misintention, right, the style looks crap for the situation. So if you come up in a really good stance where you're front on and you can start to move in a 3D manner, 3D being down, up, left, right, forwards, back, and notice how easy it is because my poo man pop-up isn't locked up. The reason we're doing the pop-up in the bowl is that I've had countless customers come through and gone, hey, I've got this poo man stance, and if you could just help me not look ugly on camera. And it's becoming more and more frequent, especially with wave pools coming online, because getting footage of yourself surfing at a wave pool is really, really easy. And it all stems from your pop-up. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and we can help you fix your surfing. The problem with the pop-up is that it kind of ruins your stance. So a lot of people pop up and you kind of see this thing happening where the knees are really, really far apart. And then the stance is normally really wide. So to shift your weight forward or to shift your weight back is really, really difficult, really hard. The other thing with this stance is that my head is counterbalanced with my hips. Now the reason for this stance is because most people when they're popping up, they're worried about falling. So they want to have their hands close to the ground. So if they did fall, they don't have to fall as far. The problem with that, if my head's low and my hands are down, this is almost how you teach someone how to dive into a swimming pool. So the thing that they're afraid of is the thing that actually happens. Now, if you think about someone running, in the starting blocks, they're more like this, and the knees are in this kissing position where that knee touches that one. And from here, they got speed and acceleration. Now, because we walk every day, we walk upstairs every day, this is a much more natural position than this is. So it got me thinking, well, how can you get your pop-up into a more natural position where you can move? So the first thing is that, well, stop doing a pop-up. So if you reverse engineer it, from standing on your board, let's lie down. So without thinking about it, if I had to lie down, I would just take a step back, triangle, triangle, and lie down. And then let's repeat that. Okay, let's take a step forward. And there's my surfing pop up, where I'm just walking up. I would never, I can't even think about this, pop down. It's just inefficient. So you never want to pop up because while you're being all explosive, you've locked up the hip, you're on your back foot, your head's bent over. To stop it from basically wobbling further, you tend to lock the lower back, and then your arms are really stiff, trying to lock up and prevent your body from moving. Whereas if you were stacked, like all those blocks, all right, when you stacked, so in other words, from ankle to knee, knee to hip, and hip to shoulder, I can twist that around and it can move. So when I'm surfing, if all my joints are stacked, I can twist and I can move. And that twisting gives me power. That twisting allows me to see. And not only that, because it's balanced, I can compress and extend in a nice posture. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump on and have a look at some of the pros and see how that knee kissing makes them better balanced over the front foot. And that helps them to shift their weight forwards, back, up, down, left, right. So it gives them three-dimensional movement as opposed to a pop-up that locks you up. We're going to look at this beautiful footage that was filmed about a couple of years ago, but it was filmed in the wave pool by Brent Rose, and everything was filmed in slow motion. So you can systematically pick apart all of the details that sometimes go unnoticed. So let's jump into it. So when Geordie Smith gets up, you'll notice that as he gets to his feet, all right, the knees are kissing, more like a sprinter stance. So a lot of people on their pop-ups, the knees are going in two different directions. This is more of a squat. Now if you're squatting, you can lift up heavy weights and you're heavy, but if you're heavy, you're going to drift to the bottom of the wave. Whereas if you're lunging, you're going to be light and fast. And it's that light compression and extension that allows Geordie to go up and down the wave. Here's Kelly Slater's takeoff. And you can see that when he stands up, the knees kiss. When that knee kisses, it makes you a lot lighter on your feet. And that lightness of the feet is going to encourage compressing and extending. Now, when you gently compress, you'll press on your toe wedge because it's the toe wedge that's engaged on the rail. And by gently compressing on the toe and extending, it'll help the board lift up the wave. Whereas squatting, you've got your bum over the heel edge and your head over the toe edge, which still wants to render the board flat. Whereas Kelly's got his head and hip over the toe edge, which puts the board on rail. So there's a distinct advantage between kissing the knees and being on the toe edge versus squatting and being flat when you surf. On John John's takeoff, he takes off and he's got really flexible hips, and he does a super deep compressed lunge. Now, the problem with squatting is that if you squat too low, your ability to lift is really, really hard because your center of mass is almost below your legs and below your hips. So you have to go there before you get the lift. Whereas with lunging, if you start to fall forwards, the falling forwards can pull you out of a lunge and you can explode forwards with speed and energy and power. So you can see John John is leaning forwards while going into a deep lunge, getting explosive pop-up energy versus that flat lunge where you're too heavy and you can't move. Okay, so for the ladies, here's Chris Amur's takeoff. Now what you'll notice about Chris Amur is that when she stands up, the knees kiss. So the wonderful thing about the knees kissing is that if you need to shift your weight slightly forward, center, or back, you've got this beautiful range of motion that can sustain that. But if you're doing a squat, it's really hard to kind of shift your weight to try to change that foot placement and that foot posture. So the squat is going to lock you up, whereas the lunge gives you a wider range of movement. And it looks so much nicer being in that squat position than the Pooh Man position. Here's Joel Parkinson's takeoff. And what you'll notice about Joel Parker when he takes off, he stands up, and on the way down, the knees kiss. Now, the great thing about having your knees kissing on the way down is that because the water is rushing past you, it's not going to interfere. Even if you start leaning into the wave, the water won't hit the knee. But if you're squatting and you start leaning in, water's going to hit this back leg, and it could potentially rip you off your board. So it's really important to try to minimize your body contact in the water and that ripping you off the board. So Steph takes up, and if I hit pause, there's the knee kiss. Now you'll notice her stance is fairly narrow. The reason being for that is that she wants her weight over the forward rocker of the board to make the board accelerate. But when she wants to turn, she will then widen the stance to make the board pivot off the back foot. So if we continue watching, see where her foot is, and then she steps back. So you'll notice now her stance is a lot wider, and even though it's wider, she's still kissing the knees. Okay, here's Chloe and Dino. Paddles into the wave, and again, same pattern recognition. You'll see that the knees are kissing, which means that his hips are facing forward, he's facing forward, and he can see. Now, if you look at the trajectory line of where he wants to go, this looks photogenic because the next movement that he does, you can anticipate him going to where he wants to go. So if you watch the movement where he is now to where he ends up, right, that was very photogenic. Whereas someone that's squatting, you can't anticipate what they want to do next, which means that their surfing does not look photogenic, because to the naked eye watching it, you don't understand what the hell they want, because your body isn't implying movement. Here's Silvana Lima taking off. You can see that knee kiss, and because of that knee kiss, she's got more weight forward, which ultimately means more speed. Here's Felipe Toledo, takes off. There's that knee kiss, and ultimately that means that he's more balanced. Now in high pressure situations where he's got to produce a score, he's under a lot of pressure. So if he can take off and relax before he surfs the wave, he's going to be in the right mindset. It's the same as a golfer stepping up to hit a ball. If there's tension, you're not going to be able to hit that ball nicely. It's important to calm down. So getting into that position helps him to relax, helps him to feel the wax, helps him to feel the board, helps him to understand the energy that's interacting with the board, that he can then surf the wave. Here's Michel Berez, who was called the Spartan on tour because he had so much power. So when he takes off on the wave, he compresses, kisses the knee, and right there he can explosively jump into action. Now the other thing that he can do from this position of power is he's got the ability to anticipate what's happening on the wave because he's front on and he can see everything. So in a nutshell, we just dissected a whole bunch of WCT surfers and world champions, and every single one of those surfers has a knee kiss, and that stems from back foot, front foot, 3 points of contact coming up into a real nice stance where you can move, as opposed to an explosive, fast pop-up that locks you up into the side-on position where you can't see the wave and you can't move well. So when you want to go and practice your 100 pop-ups or however many pop-ups you do a day, I would rather focus on how well do I move afterwards rather than the actual process of trying to get to your feet. I would focus on where am I looking, what's going on, am I in a position where I can move, I could jump, I could shift my weight forwards, backwards, left, right, up, down, as opposed to trying to pop up into a perfect pop-up posture, because your foot has to move around. And if you can't move your foot around, you're not in a perfect pop-up posture. So I want to leave you with that one thought, that there is no perfect pop-up. What you need to do is stand up and get comfortable and then enjoy the ride.